Hi, Ingrid. Welcome.
I
Welcome,
see.
welcome, welcome. Okay, seriously though, welcome officially to the Seattle Network. And I'm so happy that you're here because we have so much to talk about. We're going to go and dive straight in. The three things I really, really want to talk with you today because you're incredible. You're in the Bay Area and I'm here in Seattle, and I feel like there's like this cloud highway between us. Cool. Lisa says working. She can hear us. She can see
Always good.
us. Look, you bring so much to the table. And the last time we talked, it was really going through your profile and for me to really understand who you are. And I'm just going to bring that up real quickly. And because I love, love, love the things that you say about yourself, which is very important for me to understand. So for everyone who is listening, you are amazing. You are really working right now on hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming, which is one of the key points that I really want to talk to you about. Also about perceived value versus value, because this is kind of where art and tech meets in the marketplace, I believe. And I think there's a lot of principles and a lot of philosophy things that we can talk about, and how to, in the container of a high performer who is performing at the highest level and energy frequency known to man. And we keep on producing outputs to better serve in the value in the marketplace and provide value. And I think the first bullet point really is about time expansion. How do we talk about time? Because everyone has deadlines. We're in the new year. Everyone's like, yeah, kind of thing about it. But at the same time, high performers know that we have to do that all the time. It's not we wait until the new year comes around. We're constantly producing because we're propelling forward. We have a different kind of mindset where we want to be surrounded by good, positive energy, and not in this like positive toxicity kind of way, but truly it's a currency that we live in to be able to go higher because we love the challenge and we love the hard mode for some reason. So all that to say, can you speak a little bit about yourself on what you think people are going to take away from your lived experience and who you kind of talk to the most in when you're speaking about certain subjects that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, wow, that's a big question. It's an overarching question. So just as a little intro, yeah, I am an oil painter based in San Francisco. And to answer what you're talking about, I think that we want to get into this correlation between high achievers, whether that be in tech or as athletes or as artists. It's really this connection to being in a flow state, and even drawing that out into what we know as being called in the zone, and operating in this almost automatic way where you're not over analyzing in your left brain over what decisions you need to be making, but you have your skill set at a certain level of mastery across fields. This is an interesting topic of time expansion. There's a book by Stephen Taylor who just wrote a book on time expansion that's very interesting, that I recommend if you'd like to read more about that. And he talks about going into being in the zone. Sometimes even this happens with humans if you're in an accident situation or a high state of emergency. You might have an experience where you're moving quickly and it feels like time has stopped, and you do kind of what you need to do in order to perform at that high level. So when you're working as an artist, figuring out the next move that you'd like to draw forth, and creating those high quality works to convey your message with that immediate stroke. Or, I imagine with athletes and tech performers and Olympians, if you want to take it there, there is that same sort of mentality of like automatic, what needs to happen, and going for it in that way of being in the zone, that I find really
Yes.
fascinating.
No, same, because to me, like everyone in the startup world, everyone who's in high business, you are a business athlete and you are literally being innovative. And to me, that is the art. That is the art of creating whatever the hell you want to create. You're like, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it on the marketplace. This has so much value. And I love when talking about time because it's like the Parkinson's law, which I'm totally in love with. And it's not about someone saying that, hey, there's a deadline or someone else's agenda. Like you have self agency as to when it should be done, when you're going to get it done, when you have that clear vision of all the steps necessary, what is the order of operation for you to execute on, and understanding what that milestone looks like, that is very fulfilling to know that you have been able to achieve the things that you want to do. But at the same time, having the coaches and the mentors and the guidance really around you wherever that you need that support to help you, like an Olympian, get you there, right? And I love when talking about what you're saying, double clicking on the time expansion with time is something that you can control. And when you can get lost in the flow and in the zone, it's because you created a container for yourself to feel psychologically safe and that you have been able to communicate with all stakeholders. Stakeholders could even be your partner, dog, the people you work with, you know, one involved to say, hey, I need to do this. I gotta do this. I want to do this. I want to focus my time here. And so that you can feel good about making progress throughout, that time. And then you can be like, hey, I want to be able to spend quality time in this and this kind of way. So when you're making that time limit of, because someone might say, hey, I want to achieve this and this and this quarter. Or I want or an investor's like, I want to see these kind of results in within this year kind of thing. We all know that there's so many things that are outside of our control, things that are so external that you have no control over. But the number one thing that you can control is your reaction, your time, what you're making, what you're producing, what you're communicating, what you're in the season of yes in or season no. You and I are hard believers of Mel Robbins. Yeah. So let them go, let them stay, let me theory, all that stuff. And I think that plays into time. So how would you explain from your point of view of when you want to click on to this mindset when the new year energy is fading, and how you've been able to constantly produce at the highest energy, because your artwork is amazing, and that's why we're partnering together and we're working together. And the best compliment I've heard of you, just like it is, and that was from the other artist, Gina. She was saying that your artwork triggers happiness, triggers this spark of joy, like literally. And that is the value that your artwork brings inside the room when someone needs that extra push. And to me, that's coaching. It's like live. It's that extra push, that guidance of I can do this. And you're in this mental room and you feel safe. You feel like yourself, and you can be so authentic that you can do whatever you want. If you want to build a freaking new startup, you go do that. If you want to build, a whole new venture and something that you're so passionate about and you really want to see results, you go do that. And you're able to communicate that because you feel so motivated and freaking determined. But to wake up every day and to choose that adventure and to be in the control of your time, to say, we're going to do this. It's like, who the hell said that we had to, freaking do something in 1 week or circle back in 1 week? Why not tomorrow, right? Society.
I love so much what you're talking about there. And a lot of it has to do with that compound interest of building internal trust over time, which is really just a small investment daily in crafting the habits that lead you to your fullest potential. Perhaps you're not going to get it right. Of course, we're talking about, it's January 3rd today, so it's New Year. Everybody's in this goal setting habits mode. But making those small daily investments in order to take you to your fullest potential of who you want to be in whatever field that might be. Certainly for being an artist, getting into the flow and dialing into what is it, the message that I need to communicate today? What is the mindset that I need to step to my work with in order to um, transmit that energy into the painting and have it lead to that feeling that you're discussing of empowerment, even when I'm not physically there to step by the work. There is an energy transmission with that I find really fascinating and I hope transformative for those around my work.
What is your inner monologue like? So let's say you have like those questions because you are such a high performer. So what is your inner monologue like? What does that self-talk looks like for you?
Oh, that's so interesting. A few years ago, it may have been quite different. I may have had more of an inner monologue, but now, through practice of meditation and getting into higher states of consciousness, I recognize that most of that inner monologue for us is really just the ego talking. And in order to get to your highest level of performance, stepping away from egoic identity and that sort of back and forth inner critic or inner monologue, even if it's praise or criticism on either side of the spectrum, moving forward in the present moment and not really letting your inner state dictate or be a reaction to some sort of often the inner critic or inner monologue are voices from an external place that have seeped into thoughts that you carry around with you. But sort of being in a state of non-judgment, non-reactivity, and reacting to the work that needs to be made, that you're called to make, um, and having a very clear mind operating, or in again this New Year's place and thinking of it as a mental decluttering of just having total clarity and moving forward with intentional, decisive action is how I strive to operate.
What was the transformative? You were saying like how a few years ago you wouldn't have think may have been in that place to be thinking in the way you are today, which that's freaking growth. So that's like freaking always celebrate. So woo, high five. So what was the transformation? Oh, like what was because nothing happens overnight and people always think like, oh my God, like let's celebrate about that and that just happened last night. No, not that happened over time and it's really a build up and just the thing how you double clicking on that ego thing of when you have the negative self-talk, it's like when you put one brick after another and you just can't see anything almost. And it's like, that's the negative self-talk of like, that's I guess, the result of that. And then you go into rumination. And then the opposite of that is the transformation of the clarity and moving forward. But what was it for you that you actually made this transformation? Because to me, you're saying to me like, hey, I was kind of operating really different. I reprogrammed myself. I was able to move mountains. I was able to push myself in a completely different way. So what was that transformation period for you that basically kicked your ass?
Yeah. No, I mean, it happens slowly over time, as you're saying. I probably began really solidly meditating and doing the morning pages practice, which is 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing every day that Julia Cameron talks about. I want to say in 2018, 2019, probably got into an even better stream with that work. Um, and offering myself those mirrors basically of if you discussed I love how you put this your mental room um in offering mirrors to like a little flashlight to poke around in the mental space what is actually there that needs to be sorted out, revisited what is in alignment and what needs to be, um, you know, I think of the KonMari method, Marie Kondo, like, what does this spark joy? Does this thought, you're supposed to go around and hold all of the objects in your home as you do physical decluttering, and she talks about that, but doing that in a mental way. Sarah Knight also talks about mental decluttering. Now she has a different, more comedic way of discussing, but I recommend her work as well. Thinking about, is this thought, is this mental baggage that I'm carrying around helping me? Or is this somebody else's paradigm and programming that somehow I haven't accepted ownership of and taken really as the person? I like how you mentioned earlier, the Olympian, if we're all going to be Olympians of whatever we're pursuing, Olympic Seattle,
we are the main characters of our lives, right?
Like, what does that look like to be that type of Olympian? And what does it take? And being very thoughtful and mindful and serious about analyzing everything that you take in, most of which is invisible and internal, to sift out what is really working for you, what was really working for me at that time. And through incremental change over time, crafting more of what is truly in alignment with the work that I'm looking to bring into the world and share.
Yes, the mental room is really something, because I think as high performers, it is kind of a lonely world too, because not everyone chooses that path. So, like, I know we're kind of all a little bit concentrated in the Bay Area and, Seattle and stuff, but like, it's definitely a choice. This isn't like everyone can chill out in the way how they want to. But, with the mental room, it's very much, being in marketing and advertising, we're always kind of trying to teach about storytelling, because at the end of the day, when it comes to psychology, whether you're buying from a big business, like through B2B, if you're buying small versus small, or, big versus small, or small versus big, or whatever the case is, you're still buying from a person. The transaction is between two people. And as much as it could be a big brand or a big business or whatever, you're really just talking to another person. And so for someone to know, like, and trust you, they kind of have to understand who you are, like a 30-second commercial ad. And so if you can articulate clearly in your mind to yourself on what lights you up and why you are building or producing what you are doing and spending your time and energy investment in, it's really going to clearly shine to and attract the other person who really values that same thing and who you are. And there's no question about it. And going into perceived value versus value is, with artwork, some would say it can be very subjective. And and coming from advertising, everything is subjective. Everything is. And you could be a high-end creative director, you could be a high-end executive producer, you can be a high-end whatever. The point is though, we all kind of come together, because nothing is made when you're alone. You come together to bring all these high skill sets together to then create a narrative, so that when the buyer sees it, even in a short snippet, 6 seconds, 30 seconds, or whatever, they get the story, they understand the offer, they understand why it can resonate to them, and it makes them feel something, and it pulls them through. You can pull a thread all within that moment of time. And that is kind of, whether, and I think when people get stuck on the price point, whether it's the price point of art, whether it's the price point of a subscription-based SaaS company, for example, in tech, or it's a annual kind of retainer situation, whatever deal structure it is, it doesn't really matter. The point is that when you're thinking about what the price is, how do you perceive it is going to be the first stepping stone of how the marketplace perceives it. And in capitalism, there's always someone who is going to be able to purchase it. And we already have data points of, kind of the ideal range that is within. So even with art, we know what the ideal range is. It's not $1. So like we know specifically what are the ranges that are normal and okay. But then it comes to the artists, the product, the talent, the resource, and the brand to say, hey, it's perceived at this much because for me to be in this business model structure, to be a sustainable business owner, I, spend this much on materials. I spend this much on promoting. I spend this much to, do these shows and all these kind of things for marketing. And this is the cost of it for me to continue and provide value. And also the buyers also see that high value as well. And they feel so much of that connection. And the reason why is an instant off or no brainer for them to take that home and for them to cherish it and adore it and that they can't live without it. Right?
Yeah, you're really striking on so many great points, and I just took a few notes of responses. But yeah, the way you mentioned about your field in advertising and your background with that, it recalls to mind this feeling of having the same experience with painting, actually, in terms of if somebody is going to engage with your work in a gallery setting, museum setting. Painters may be lucky if they have 3 seconds of somebody stopping and looking at their work and really engaging with their painting. And I think it may even be less than that now, according to recent data, after spending so much time to craft it. There's only this short blip of time in order for it to create this sympathetic vibration, a resonance within the viewer. So in
Yes.
thinking about my work, I'm not really trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm looking to shine as brightly as possible and connect with those who deeply resonate with what message I'm looking to communicate, which is one of deeper awakening and global consciousness raising. So it's fun, and it always makes me so excited. This past couple of weeks, I've had some different collectors write to me, just so happy that they have my work, and just I have really the best collectors because that's how I personally choose to engage with the work. And I just want to make work that really enlivens and empowers my own experience in its creation and set the intention for it to completely uplift and transform the experience for others internally as well once they collect it. So if you set that intention and step to your work every time with that in mind, of creating something high quality, sustainable, handmade, with green materials, that environmentally friendly, things that really align across the board with what you're creating in the world and how you value, then you'll connect with others based on a value perspective. And so this is probably why we connect so well, and I'm having fun doing it. Yeah.
I think we need to coach in sales. You were awesome. No, but that's exactly, your lived experience of attracting the type of buyers that you want and makes you feel good to keep on going and continuing that momentum is incredible. And that is the feeling that someone should understand what the milestones look like in a successful sale and what that does to you when you receive that feedback. It's not just like positive feedback. It's not like, okay, 5 stars, Like this is a lot more meaningful and beyond surface level that makes you feel that you are doing something that you can continuously, I think, learn that you know how to make this relationship again with someone else, that there's someone else in this world that can also feel as much as that art collector, for example, that buyer. Like there's other people too that would resonate just as much as they did. And that's exactly, I feel like when it comes to B2B, you might just have that one buyer that changes your whole goddamn world. Like they're like, hey, I like buy everything. They just might do that. And then it might skyrocket your business, for example. Or it might be a volume play too. It might be so many, but the feedback or and what you want to experience is still the same, because it then you learn how to create your own inner value that you don't need to rely on that external validation. And where you are operating at a energy frequency is that is a nice to have, because you have gained so much confidence in what you are doing, and you are a living example of that. So thank you.
Thank you, C. Yeah, no, it is definitely about crafting all of this internally, and then not reacting to whatever outcome, something might be with any sort of exhibition or something. But usually it does work out very wonderfully because of all of the mindset work primarily, and everything leading up to showing the work. And yeah, it's really great that you mentioned that deeper resonance with the collectors of, yeah, I do notice that if my collectors, they're in. They're like, I want 3 paintings. I want where's the wait list for the next drop? There's that energy with it. And so I guess that's who I enjoy working with, is those who really get the message and are all in. And
and they're your biggest fans, right? Like they're they're dying to hear from you. They want to know, like, what's the next product launch, right? What is the next thing that you're doing? And they're so in your universe.
Yeah, and I think about the reasons why I collect art, and it's the same reasons why I enjoy looking at my nephews and family dogs and things like this, is that you are living through somebody else's life experience that resonates with you deeply. So, thinking, when children run around and there's all this joy in their experience, or I walk on the beach every day and I see all these dogs running on the beach, and they're just full of life and joy and experience. And it's just a pleasure to watch that. And collecting work, when I collect paintings and different things, ceramics and textiles and sculptures, I get to have a piece of that joy in my life. And that's the experience that I hope to spread with creating my own work as a document and almost a visual diary of my own transformation and leveling up.
Oh, I love that. So you're saying that if anyone sees you on the beach, that they can't say hi to you unless they're just kidding.
Quite.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, like, it's so interesting what you're saying, because I think it wraps up perfectly of the safe home. Psychologically, what a safe home looks like, so that you can feel so good and present, because you have to be present in order to have the best work out there, for you to be the most authentic, for you to feel all the things. You can feel all the things. You're so goddamn human. You are amazing, and you're going to be able to, it's going to be so seen in your work, whatever you're going to produce. And what you're saying about being on the other side of the marketplace, you're not just a seller, you're also a buyer too in the marketplace. And what you're saying, and so just so I can translate also to the other folks in the network, is being able to understand both sides of the coin is really important to understand experience, because when you're so narrow in building something, you're just so like entrenched in it that sometimes it's hard to step out. And sometimes the best way is to actually be in someone else's shoes, to be like, oh my God, yeah, I wouldn't, why would, like there's gaps in that experience. I want to be experiencing that. And then you're able to kind of zoom out and be like, okay, how can I do better in whatever that I'm doing? So it's actually actionable. You can have some tangible results that you can look forward to, that you can then click in your mind that you're making progress. And going back to that safe room of, I think home is something where there's a lot of people in the Bay Area and a lot of people in the Seattle area that are transplants. So they are total transplants. There's a lot of natives too, but there's a lot of transplants. And to me, I feel like everyone is like a digital nomad. They're like a traveler. And what we do is that we help to empower that home is whatever you make of it. It is your narrative that you make today. And it doesn't matter which four walls that you are operating in. It could be in a corporate office. It could be in your room. It could be at a home office. It could be wherever it is that you are currently operating in. But for you to make that as present as possible, whether it's your nephews running and you have artwork of that, or hanging something that reflects the present day and not the past, that I think is the greatest status symbol to yourself, that you are living in the moment and you are maximizing everything that you can today. And in that way, it will rechannel that energy in what you're producing.
Absolutely. What you're talking about there is strategically crafting your input of your environment and having that affect your output of whatever life you're dreamily crafting. And I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Surrounding yourself with the textures, the colors that make you feel good. And again, it's incremental as you experience your days being around other people and your strategically crafted environment to put you in the trend of, where you'd like to be mentally. It definitely is that sense of uplift that you want to bring to your work, and acting upon your highest excitement in that work of taking ownership of that home space and internal space, as we were mentioning earlier, in order to catapult you to your next level. Yeah.
So where would you have people learn about energy frequencies if they are new to it? We
Oh,
talked about time expansion of a resource of that, but to be able for them to, if they're like, what the heck are these people talking about? And I want to be there. Where would you point them to learn about it? Because you read a lot. Like I read a lot too, but you read a lot in a completely different way. Where would you point them as a
oh,
resource?
that's so interesting. Yeah, I think where to begin. I think acting on your highest excitement with your own curriculum in life. You know, reading the books that you're most curious about, or paying attention to the speakers that you're most curious about, is completely an individual experience. Um,
Yeah.
there is a book, I want to say it's by Ken Honda, called Happy Money. And the way that he discusses, it's a little yellow book. I think that's what it's called. Just things that bring joy into your life through different currencies and vehicles, and ways that you want to work on for the new year. Yeah.
Normalizing commerce. High five, Ingrid. That was beautiful. So thank you so much for wrapping that in that way, because you're right.
I mean, doing what feels good, in your input
Yeah.
and your output, it's all it's this interesting relationship of consciousness. Even I was looking at like Wall Street, people who are doing stock trades and things, they're all into consciousness too. It's like this
They so
interesting
are. My neighbor's a day
overlap.
trader and he keeps on talking about it. And I'm like, who are you? It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's very Zen philosophy, you know, and there
Yeah.
is something to that, working with the waves and learning how to surf, I guess, in terms of, you know, heart mind coherence and you know, within the body, but even like you brought up day trading and stock market, you know, that is a wave, and figuring out how to almost psychologically and emotionally surf through whatever is surfing us. uh, Surf the Wall Street waves.
No,
In
you're
order,
totally right though, because it's a
yeah.
how can you sustain a regulated
Mhm.
nervous system that you can be in control of so that you can surf and navigate chaos?
Right. And it's very interesting when you get to those different points. And the thing is, it's an unrelenting wave. The only constant is change. I think somebody said that. And there's you know, your
Yes.
body is changing whether you want it to or not at a cellular level every moment. So this idea of resisting change is just not something that you want to, it's bigger than you.
Oh,
Time then, yeah.
biggest fangirl right now. Like, so in love with your EQ. Okay. You're awesome. Yes, like change is the constant, and I love that because people who really embrace that, people like you who understands that. Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I'm just like it's the like-minded people thing, and it's just like, yes, because not a lot of people, they're like, "Oh no, can't deal with change." And because we're such, you know, as humans, we are designed to be like, oh, I'm so scared of change and everything. We do everything so that we're not in our comfort, or we're always in our comfort zone.
Right.
But the growth and the high performers, the Olympians, the business athletes, the people who just keeps on going and never freaking gives up because they love it so much. They love change and they love the discomfort because there are rewards at the end of that. But you're right, as your own operating system to reprogram your subconsciousness, and letting go that baggage and being like, yo, I am going to choose my adventure this way today, and that's how I'm going to operate is, I think, the sexiest thing ever. Thank you, Ingrid, for joining me
Yeah, thank you.
in a very candid conversation about money, commerce value, art, and tech. This was an awesome Friday. Thank you.
This was an awesome Friday. Thank you so much, C. And I'm just so enjoying all of your conversations with different high achievers and learning so much from the conversations that you're putting out into the world. It's important
Oh,
work, and, you know, that's just deeply meaningful that you're pursuing this. So thank you.
shit. Thank you. Okay, I gotta stop this before I shut it here. Okay.